I'm with Quebedeaux, and I was the lead group 3 for the air conditioning experiment. Alright, there are 3 main objectives of the AC experiment. One is to perform the thermodynamic analysis of the AC. The other is to learn how the charge level of the unit affects the performance of the AC unit. And the third thing was to actually do the calculations, and that was to determine the enthalpies to be able to calculate the coefficient of performances. Oh, can you go back? My bad. That's just showing you like the 4 components of compressor, condenser, expansion valve, evaporator, and it shows the coils and how like it transfers hot fluids to the cooler fluids, and how it gets even cooler at the expansion valve. But I'll talk more into that with the diagrams. Here's also just another schematic of the heat pump, which is basically the air conditioner. It consists of the 4 things: condenser, the capillary tubes, expansion valves, also known as the evaporator, and the compressor. And you can see that one side of the compressor focuses on heat, and the other side focuses on cool air, which the heat gets evaporated into the outside of the house, outside of the unit, and the cool air gets evaporated through the air ducts throughout the house. Alright, the procedure for this experiment is to first turn on the heat pump, and you got to make sure all 4 temperature readings are the same, temperature and pressure readings are the same. Then you got to add a max amount of Freon, which is normally 13 to 14 pounds. The third step is to perform the thermodynamic analysis. This is done so by taking the wet and dry bulb temperatures and of the air entering the evaporator, and then you take the average velocity of the air. Then the third calculation you take is you measure the wet and dry bulb temperatures for the air exiting the evaporator. Alright, here's just a thermodynamic schematic of the heat pump. You can see again a compressor, evaporator, expansion valve, condenser. Well, I said it in the opposite order. It should be compressor, condenser, expansion valve, and evaporator. And you can see that it's a saturated vapor right before it reaches the compressor, and then the compressor compresses it, increases the pressure of it, and makes it a superheated vapor. And that in turn goes to the condenser, which lowers the temperature somewhat to a saturated liquid. And then from there, it's an isentropic process to saturated vapor after it reaches the expansion valve because of the throttling process. Alright, for the calculations, we needed the coefficient of performance. And to get the coefficient of performance, you just needed the Q loss divided by the work input. And to get that, we were told that the evaporator pressures were 500 kPa and the condenser pressure was 1200 kPa. And if you go back to the chart, you can see how it was an isentropic process from 1 to 2, isobaric from 2 to 3, isentropic from 3 to 4, and isobaric from 4 to 1. And those are just terms you just look up in the steam tables to get those values. Okay, so for the first thing I need to find the conditions at state 1, which was the saturated vapor. You knew the pressure, so from there you could find the entropy, and then from there you can interpolate to find the enthalpy. And then you use the conditions in state 2. It's a superheated vapor, but you know S1 equals S2, so you have 2 states, so you could find H2 with that. And the same with state 3, it's a saturated liquid, so you know all the states. And state 4, it was isentropic, and all you needed was the enthalpy for state 4. You just needed the enthalpies really to find after you draw your control volume and apply the first law of thermodynamics, you can see that all you needed was H2, the change of enthalpies from states 1 to 2, and the change of enthalpies from 1 to 4 to get your work input and your Q loss, your heat loss. And from there you can get your coefficient of performance to be 7.61, which I think real terms for heat pumps, it should be around 3. But I think that has to do with the leveling charge that we're supposed to account for in the experiment. So, any questions?
What range of coefficient of performance always be expecting? Like,
I think closer to 3. That's what all the research that I could find. But nothing was like definite, like heat pumps going to be around 3.
good job, boys.
No questions? Carly?
That doesn't count?
We just have one question. There should be more questions.
Blake, are you excited for this
There is
experiment?
all.
He's so pumped.
Okay, let's keep trying. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna ask this question before. So probably ask some more complaint. You have a compressor, you have a condenser, right?
Right.
Then you have an expansion valve, and then you have a return, right? So why do you have an expansion valve?
To decrease the pressure to where you can cool down the fluid.
Why couldn't you do that with the turbine?
I mean, if you do it with the turbine, you gotta add work into it. So with the expansion valve, you don't have to add work.
Substitution. Okay.
What answer are you looking for?
That's kind of acceptable, that's fine. For a turbine, I mean, you don't require a turbine, right? I mean, you had a turbine in the Rankine cycle. I mean, it essentially does the same thing, but you have, like you have, like you said, so it's probably the same thing with Travis.
I mean, I just want to point out the charge level thing again, because we're not adding 13, 14 pounds. We're measuring the weight before and after turning on the machine. Because it's probably only 2 or 3 pounds of charge in it.
So,
That's why the coefficient of performance
Yeah.
would be lower.
okay.
So you had 7.6, right?
Yeah, 7.61. A little high.
Okay. All right.